Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jessie. I do planning, lifestyle, and bookish content here on YouTube. And today I have an entertainment video, winter/Christmas edition. Also, I feel like this is going to be said in the beginning of a lot of my videos, but if you hear a lullaby in the background, it is my son sleeping. Maybe I can try and find a way to edit it out, but in the end, it is what it is. It allows me to do something that I thoroughly enjoy, which is creating content on YouTube. So grab yourself a beverage, hot, cold, iced, a snack, and let's dive in. I have 5 categories, and that is movies, television, YouTube, books, and hobbies. So we'll start with movies, of course, and the first one being Arthur Christmas. I love this movie with every bone in my body. When it came out a few years ago, I saw it and it looked cute. It's animated, but I wasn't into it, and then I just put it on one day as like background noise while I was cleaning, and I didn't clean, needless to say. I sat down and I watched the entire movie. We follow Arthur, who is Santa's youngest son. Everybody knows that Santa is going to be retiring and he's going to hand off mission of Christmas to his eldest son, who is very technologically advanced. He has, I think it's called Red One, which is pretty much like an alien saucer that does a bunch of cool tech things. And Arthur, he receives all of the letters from Santa Claus, and it is so cute. It's really just how sometimes we need to stop, and even though we have all of these things at our fingertips, slowing down and doing things at a slower pace can really make a big difference within our lives. Obviously, it's a Christmas movie, so being the Claus's family dynamic, we also get that family side to the story as well. I just think it's so sweet. There's actually, it's not a spoiler, but there's a scene in the movie and they're playing Monopoly, and you have the grandfather, the father, the oldest son, and the youngest son, and each generation of Claus is so different. It's really cool to see and kind of compare on screen that difference all in one room, and it's kind of eye-opening, and it's such a sweet movie. I really enjoy it. I'm also not going to be putting on the classics here, like The Nightmare Before Christmas or Home Alone. Everybody knows about those movies. It's funny as I say that, the next movie I want to talk about is The Polar Express. And the only reason this is on here is because it is a die-hard fave for me. I have been obsessed with The Polar Express since it came out. I had it on VHS. I'm pretty sure it's still at my parents', or I have it in a box, the DVD. I have it downloaded as like a movie from years ago. It is one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies. And we follow a young boy who wakes up to this huge train, finding a ticket in his pocket to board, and his journey to see Santa Claus. I know almost every single word and lyric to this movie, or I did anyways. You see friendships, how kids don't necessarily know how their actions impact people, but they understand in the end. And I love this overarching story of how we grow out of childness as we get older, as only kids can board and hear this train and adults can't because they no longer believe. And it's really cool because when the kids board the train, their ticket gets punched and it's the first half of a word, and when they get off the train, the conductor punches the rest of the word that kind of reflects their own personal journey on the Polar Express. It's just so sweet, and again, I've said it like 4 times, but one of my absolute favorite movies. The next movie is Fred Claus. The fastest way to sum up this movie is we follow Santa's younger brother, who is the outcast of the family, is always in his older brother's shadow. So he's not super family oriented, he's not super cheery around the holidays, and he's called upon to help with Christmas. And that's all I'm gonna say, because this movie is fantastic. Okay, 2 more to talk about. We have Love Hard. And when this movie came out, I immediately wanted to watch it because it stars Nina Dobrev. And if you do not know, I live in Canada and was obsessed with Degrassi. And when Nina starred in The Vampire Diaries, I was obsessed with that. I just really love her as an actress. I feel like you could watch her grow into her acting, and it's just really lovely to see. So Love Hard follows her character, who's a journalist, and she writes a column about her terrible love life. She goes on dates, they always end horribly, and she writes about them. And people love this, including her boss. And she's like, well, can I write about a good date that happens? And they're like, no, that's not what the column is. So she ends up meeting this man online, and they start talking, and it turns into a relationship. They talk every single day. They're texting if they're not talking. And she decides after a conversation to surprise him. And when she shows up, he may not be who he's perceived himself to be. And I think that the whole movie is based upon this, but it's not taken as seriously. But I feel like you get the gist of what catfishing can be. And yes, I know there's that show called Catfish. But in a funny, holiday, Christmas, family-oriented, beautiful movie, you have that underlying of this could have turned out extremely different. And not this cutesy, wonderful movie that we get. So I feel like it's almost like a reminder to really look into the people who you're going to date online, maybe. Ish, just a little bit. And last but not least is Last Christmas. This had me teary. I did not see this movie ending the way it did, but we follow, I'm pretty sure her name is Noelle, and her life is a mess. She is an elf at this Christmas store. We pretty much follow her journey as she meets this man who makes her fall in love with Christmas again, as well as himself. Her family dynamic isn't the best, but it's a beautiful movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't want to give too much away because I feel like I went into this movie knowing just that was so much more than I could have imagined. It was a beautiful, beautiful movie. Okay, so I had to take a break, feed, change the baby. So moving on, we have television. I separated television and YouTube and movies just because I feel like it can be its own category. When I thought about TV shows that I like to watch in the colder winter months, there isn't a lot of Christmas TV. There's always like episodes or specials surrounded by Christmas and the holidays, but there's nothing specifically Christmas TV shows. So I decided to go with comfy, cozy, warm, something you want to curl up in a blanket with some hot chocolate or a coffee and some good snacks and binge watch. First is Friends. And Friends is a classic, but if you don't know, it follows a group of friends who live in an apartment building together, and it's them going through their lives. Conflict, love, all of things in between. It's a wonderful classic show. Next is baking shows. And this came as a surprise, but something when I was thinking about what I wanted to add on this list always came back to was baking shows. And I think there's something so wonderful about That smell of baking, cooking in your house in the wintertime, that scent lingers a little bit longer because our windows aren't open, and that beautiful smell. So I think I've really associated those two things together, and I really love watching baking shows. Next is home renos or makeover shows. I don't know what it is, but I think it's just the wholesomeness of a family or even just a singular person falling in love with their home again. As someone who's kind of in the midst of some renos in her own home, the process of falling in love with your home is really special. I think that those are just some really wonderful moments to watch, especially during the holidays when you're around family and you're in a season of gratitude. And last but not least is This Is Us. This is a very wholesome TV show. It follows a very mixed family. Have biological children, adopted children. We talk about depression and some really difficult topics, having present and flashback scenes to their childhood, and it's just a very wonderful show, and it's one of those ones that you can cozy up and watch and binge and just cry, laugh, and thoroughly enjoy yourself because it's so down to earth and wholesome. Next is YouTube. Again, this was kind of a hard list, but I know that people very much use YouTube as their main entertainment, so I wanted to put some things that I really love to watch on this list. So first is hygiene videos. I don't know what it is, but I love watching hygiene videos. One, it shows you what's new on the market, what people are trying, their benefits, people's first impressions of the products. So you get some ideas of what to add into your own if you have similar skin or a similar hair type as them. And then as well, you also get gift ideas. Again, if someone you're having a hard time buying for and they have a similar skin type or hair type, or they like kind of the same scents, and I think that people always need some body products or some hygiene products, so getting something like a perfume or a really nice body wash or a body scrub or a set, there's something really nice about receiving those as gifts. Next is journaling videos, and I think this goes without saying, I love planning content and I love reading journals. I love reading. I have a reading journal myself. If you want to check out how I set that up, I will leave it in the cards. Sorry, there's someone walking, but they're stopping and looking back, and I can't see if they're looking at something specific, but anyways, I have a reading journal, and I will leave that video linked for you, but I love seeing what people are reading. Again, I want to see if people have similar taste to me, what they're reading right now, and always getting more recommendations. I don't think I need to add any books to my TBR because it's forever growing, but I add them anyway. And last but not least for YouTube would be ambient music or ambient music. Right now I'm really loving that, and I've been loving it for a while, but that soft jazz coffee shop vibe, or even those, I don't know if they're AI generated, but those scenes. One thing that I really love is just the snowfall. It's like New York winter jazz or something like that, and it's literally snow falling. I throw it on while I'm cleaning, doing work, doing the dishes, just having it on as background music. I think smooth jazz or a lo-fi, because I hate having an all quiet home. Okay, so two more to talk about is the best for last, and that's books. So we'll talk about hobbies right now. For me, a wintry, cozy hobby is something that feels nice to you, and that's personally different for every single person. For me, I really love crocheting. That's not something as a hobby I really like to do in the summertime, but I did this past summer because I really wanted a hospital blanket for when I went to give birth. But otherwise, it's not a summer hobby for me, as reading is an all year round hobby for me. But the type of books that I'm reading from the colder to warmer months is vastly different in my opinion. So for me, crocheting is a big one for the winter time. I also really love writing poetry in the winter. Again, there's just something about having a nice cup of hot chocolate or a really nice snack and cozying up with my blankets in the low light next to the Christmas tree and writing poetry. I really enjoy doing that. Again, this is going to be different for every single person, but those are the hobbies that I really like in the colder months. Okay, and last but not least is books. I really love those high fantasy reads. I think it's that slow progression of the story and it really immerses you and you can really lose yourself. I have some books here that I really want to read. Some of them I know nothing about. Some of them I know a little bit about. So the first on my list this year for winter is the Love Light series by B.K. Morrison, I think is how you say her name. Each book follows kind of like a different couple in a season, and the first one is the winter Christmas season, holidays, and I'm super excited to read this. I know nothing about the books except everybody who reads them falls in love with them, so I'm excited to read those. Next is classic. They're more popular nowadays, but this has always been a thing for me, and that is a hockey romance. I'm a Canadian. I do enjoy a hockey game every now and then. It's not something that I go crazy or I'm like fanfare about, but I do love me a hockey Christmassy romance. Next is The Plight Before Christmas by Kate Stewart. This is the author of the Ravenhood trilogy, and I loved that trilogy. So when she came out with The Plight Before Christmas, I hopped on that bandwagon so fast. And we are pretty much a fake dating. Her ex is invited to her family Christmas, so she enlists someone that she does not like to be her fake boyfriend. Then there's the mistletoe motive, and I don't know much about this, but the cover looked really pretty and the Goodreads ratings are good, so I added that to the list. And last but not least on this list is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. And this was also adapted into a movie, and we follow Dash and Lily, whose lives are drastically different. Dash's parents are going through a divorce, and Lily's parents are not home for the holidays. Her brother has other plans, and she's kind of alone for the holiday season, and she loves Christmas. And our two characters meet kind of when one of them writes a book and the other answers, and they kind of have this relationship, I guess you could say, through these notes back and forth, and it's so cool. I had, especially when this first came out, I have the original novel with the original cover, and when this book first came out, I had never, and still to this day really, at that time, dystopian like The Hunger Games and Divergent and all of those novels that were very similar but different, there was nothing like it at the time. And to this day, I haven't come across anything like it either, with this idea of, you know, communicating through this old book. If there are, and if you know of any, please let me know in the comments, because I really loved that trope. It's not something that's done often, and I think it's really cool. Eventually they meet, and it's wonderful to read back then, and they did a pretty good job with the movie adaptation as well. So those are all of my different mediums, I guess you could say, that I love to indulge in the winter season, and I hope you take some of these, make it your own. If you haven't done these things or haven't watched them, I hope you get some ideas of what you can consume in a sense this season. Yeah, I just really hope that you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.